Hi there, my name is Dan, and welcome back to All One, the United Anatomy of Being. This is episode number 3, called Human Knowledge. And it's very important to understand that human knowledge is only obtained in 3 ways. Awareness of this is important because the attempt of this series, and really what should be the attempt of any spiritual teaching, or hopefully any teaching, period, is to share knowledge with explanation and example. The point is not to ask one to believe something without the ability to contemplate, consider, question, and hopefully comprehend as useful knowledge for improved living. Therefore, it's important to understand the 3 sources of knowledge and the difference between true knowledge and belief or opinion. Human knowledge is only obtained from direct experience, indirect experience, and inference. Direct experience is quite self-explanatory. We can learn and obtain knowledge on any of our levels of being through our own direct experience and through the perceptual tools of those levels. So for example, on the physical level, we can interact with the physical world and gain experience and knowledge through our physical perception senses of sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. A classic and simple example of direct experience is touching a hot stove. When touched and the hand is burned, the hot stove is directly experienced. There is now direct knowledge gained of what hot really is and the resulting discomfort from a burn. No one needs to tell you anymore. No one can contradict your experience, and nothing needs to be believed. Rather, knowledge is obtained, and barring the elimination of memory, will be retained as long as you live. Almost every bit of human knowledge is at least initially obtained through direct experience. We know that the sun will come up every day, turning the darkness into light. We know what hunger is. We know what an apple tastes like, and that an apple seed will not grow into a harvest of watermelons. We know that a rock is solid and water is fluid. We know that fire is hot and ice is cold. And we know what will happen if we touch a red hot stove. Indirect experience is knowledge that has been directly experienced by someone else and shared, but not directly experienced by the recipient. While knowledge from direct experience is irrefutable, at least to the one who directly experienced it, knowledge from indirect experience is a little less straightforward. Accepting indirect experience as knowledge requires belief and either trust of the source or general acceptance among various trusted sources. A classic and simple example of indirect experience or indirect knowledge is telling a child not to touch a hot stove. A child may have never directly experienced intense heat. They may have never experienced the pain from a burn. The mother wants the child to learn this knowledge without the pain or injury from a direct experience. However, the child may be curious. The child may feel defiant, or the child may simply want to know what she means. And if the child wants to irrefutably know what is so forbidden about the stove and why the mother is so worried, she will have to touch it to directly experience and irrefutably learn. And if she does, she will directly learn and understand what hot is and directly experience the pain from a burn. She will learn that the mother is a trusted source for indirect knowledge. She will then also fully accept as knowledge that a fire is also hot and will burn her when the mother tells her, without also having to directly experience it for herself. Most of what humans learn from parents, families, teachers, books, religions, or even societies as a whole is indirect knowledge. We know that our planet rotates, thereby creating the experience of day and night on Earth. We know that atoms exist. We know the circumference of the Earth or the distance to the moon. We do not have to directly experience these things to accept it as knowledge, because others have. The direct experience can be replicated, and there is wide enough acceptance among trusted sources that these things are true. Still, while much knowledge can be completely accepted as truth, when the source is indirect, there is always a level of belief required, which also means there will always be potential for doubt. And if indirect knowledge is truthful knowledge, it can be directly experienced or rather re-experienced. So if one really doubts that atoms exist but are curious to be certain, they can find access to a scientific lab with an electron microscope and directly experience them for themselves. The third way that knowledge is obtained is through inference. True knowledge from inference is information that is not directly or indirectly experienced, but can be irrefutably inferred based on pre-existing truthful knowledge. So a classic and simple example of inferred knowledge is that where there is smoke, there is fire. One can directly experience smoke through the sense of sight or smell without directly experiencing or seeing the fire. However, we have the pre-existing knowledge that smoke is a precursor or a result of fire. So if there is direct experience and thus knowledge that smoke is rising up from the basement of your house, you can irrefutably infer that there is a fire without directly experiencing it, and know that you should act fast to either put it out or leave the house. Undoubtedly, there is no better way to gain knowledge than through direct experience. However, our world is big. Our existence is complicated. There has been so much human knowledge accumulated throughout the history of humankind, and so much more yet to be obtained, that it would be impossible for any individual to know everything there is to be known solely through direct experience. There's also great value in indirect knowledge. Indirect knowledge is nothing more than the sharing of direct knowledge. It accelerates learning and is critically important for both the past and continued accumulation and development of new human knowledge. There is also great value in inference. However, indirect and inferred knowledge can also be dangerous, which is why it's so important to understand these three sources of knowledge. It's not dangerous if it's true, but there's plenty of knowledge that is taught, believed, or fully accepted as truth that is not irrefutably true. So again, the potential problem with indirect knowledge, particularly when presented as truth, is whether it is truthful knowledge, opinion, belief, or even misinformation or disinformation. Examples of the dangerous aspects of non-factual indirect knowledge abound in the past, as well as seemingly quite a bit in our current societies or our current times. And we have all likely experienced it. An example that has been and still is sensitive for some individuals or human groups is the biblical story of creation, which is still taught as truth in some parts of the world right now. And again, this is just an example. But creationism is the literal belief of a metaphorical presentation that is thousands of years old and has been scientifically proven to be false. This doesn't mean there's not great metaphorical value in the creation story, because there is. But as a literal presentation of fact, that the earth is only 7,000 or 8,000 or even 10,000 years old, and that the heavens and our planet and life were all created by a God in 7 days, has been irrefutably disproven by all reputable scientific sources. To continue this example by questioning and digging deeper, it is possible to find the truth or near truth in this metaphor, that the existence of human beings radically changed around that time to the point of a perceived new beginning of existence when humans discovered agriculture. Ultimately, when learning from indirect knowledge, it's very important to question the source or the validity of the source, to consider whether you are accepting as truth someone else's factual, indirect knowledge or someone else's non-factual opinion or belief. Similarly, while inferred knowledge can have great value and be incredibly helpful, it too can be dangerous and harmful. There is actually a fine line between inferred knowledge and assumption. For example, inferred knowledge regarding a dog that is foaming at the mouth can be very valuable as something to avoid because it very likely and very dangerously has rabies. Alternatively, it would be wildly untruthful and unfair to assume that because your first experience in life with a dog resulted in a bite means that every other dog you encounter is dangerous, wants to bite you, and should be feared and avoided. Inaccurate inference and assumption most often result in unfounded prejudice, intolerance, and unkindness, which can also result in an abundance of unfortunate injustices and even an abundance of missed opportunities in life. The primary point here is to gain awareness of how true knowledge is obtained so that you can better understand the difference between knowledge and opinion, or truth and belief, and question where there is uncertainty between the two. There is nothing wrong with beliefs or opinions about the unknown, or about anything really, if it is unknown. They have been, and they are, critical for the accumulation of knowledge and the development of the human species. Both belief and disbelief are often driving forces toward the discovery of truth and knowledge. And factual knowledge can certainly be questioned. But if it is truly factual, the result will be unchanged, barring any conditional changes. As an example of that, we all know that water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius. This is factual knowledge. However, if salt is added to the water, the freezing point at 32 Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius is no longer true. Anyway, beliefs can and should also be questioned, but more importantly, they should be tolerated, as opinions and beliefs are often either incapable of being proven as truth or are yet to be proven as truth. There should always be openness and tolerance for them. But as belief and opinions are often completely untrue, there should always be room for flexibility and acceptance that they can and should change as relevant truth and knowledge become available. So much of the information in this series is based on direct experience and knowledge. Much is based on indirect knowledge. Some is based on inferred knowledge, and some is based on feelings from meditation and connection to the heart and soul levels. And it's important to note that some thoughts or feelings on the mysterious unknown are impossible to prove or disprove, or have yet to be proven or disproven, especially in the mind. However, the mysterious and unknown can be directly experienced by anyone. So see what makes sense, question everything, believe or disbelieve, contemplate, consider, experience what can be experienced. You just might change some of your beliefs and perspectives and or gain knowledge that will contribute to greater understanding and happiness in life. Thank you very much for joining me. In the next episode, we'll be talking about how knowledge can be contradicting, but still be accurate and true. Again, thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.